What is up, everybody, and welcome to this most special occasion here on the FanFiAddict YouTube channel and the SFF Addicts Instagram channel as well. We're here to celebrate Mr. Alexander Darwin, who has just released the third book in his Combat Codes trilogy. I'm Adrian M. Gibson. For those who don't know me, you probably do, because you watch this channel or you're following SFF Addicts. But I'm the author of Mushroom Blues and the co-host of SFF Addicts podcast. And then I'll go to Justin Lee Anderson, and we'll finish off with the man of the hour. Justin, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm Justin Lee Anderson. I'm the author of Carpet Diem and The Lost War and the Bitter Crown. It's mirrored. I got to do it the other way around, haven't I? Yeah, Ooh. These ones here.
Yeah.
And also have a lovely collection of Alex Darwin books right up here as well.
Thank you, sir.
And Alex, introduce yourself, bud.
Hey guys, Alexander, whichever you guys like. Author of the Combat Codes trilogy, which I have an image of behind. Then Blacklight Born, the finale of the trilogy, is out today in the U.S. and Thursday in the U.K. It's so funny how they have that. That's just the way things are.
Yeah. It's Tuesday. It's a weird thing, isn't it?
It's kind of meaningless when it comes down to it. You guys get it later.
Thank you, Justin, for being here, hanging out. Justin's my we're SPFBO bros. We go way back.
Absolutely.
And
we're Spiff bros, man. Come on, get the Spiff bros.
We're Orbit debut 2023 bros as well, and Adrian and I go way back too. So I appreciate you having me on to celebrate and hang out.
Dude, an absolute pleasure. I'll show off I'm just testing stuff out because we're using Restream for the first time, but
nice. I like just testing.
Yeah, man. We got Blacklight Born, which is out today, and that beautiful cover, very wolfy.
Oh, nice. Nice.
And if anyone wants
Richard, in this version, they have Richard Swann's quote, which is a great quote, and I think in the actual version it got replaced.
Poor Richard.
They kicked Richard out. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I got a New York Times quote on the cover of the one I got.
Yeah, they took the New York Times over Richard. No offense, Richard. If you're listening.
You're not comparable to the New York Times, sir.
Yeah.
But we do appreciate you, Richard. We do appreciate you. No, I'm very excited for you, buddy, because this is kind of like it's a long time coming in the sense that you have now published this trilogy twice. So you originally self-published it, and then you got picked up by Orbit, and then they did kind of like a rapid release thing over the last, I guess, like year and a bit.
It's been, I guess, rapid, but it's also seemed like a while between everything. So yeah, they picked it up right after I released the third self-pub one. So that Blacklight Born really has not seen much of the light of day. And yeah, it's been about every year for the Orbit versions, one per year.
Yeah. But how does it feel going through that process twice now?
Man, I mean, it's a little bit of deja vu, but again, as Justin can attest to, it's really quite a different process. Self-pub is running, as we've said so many times, and I'm sure a lot of anybody who's watching knows to some extent, self-pub is running your own business, which is fun in a lot of ways. And I loved interacting with, artists. I got to work with Felix Ortiz. Hey, Felix. He's actually local here in Boston. And great. I meet so many other great people. And then, again, the contest, SPFBO, but, the trad side of things was much different. And, between the editing process, and the marketing and PR, everything is quite different.
Yeah, because I'm kind of going through it right now, just like first 8 months of indie debut, and now meeting so many different authors who've kind of gone from the self-pub route into trad. It is really interesting to me kind of how those two different processes compare. Justin, what's it been like for you, man?
Oh, I mean, there's just so much waiting. There's so much waiting. I mean, and I have that kind of brain that's like, if I'm waiting for something, I can't do anything else.
Yeah.
So that's not a helpful way to be in trad publishing. You've got to be doing something else while you're waiting for other things, because that's the only way it works. You know, you're at one point, theoretically at the beginning of last year, I was meant to be launching book 1, editing book 2, and writing book 3. But I was really ill. I just kept getting, just for some reason, at the beginning of last year, I got virus after virus after virus for like the first 6 months. And so I managed to launch book 1, and I managed to do the edits on book 2, and I got no writing done on book 3, which is why that whole book is 6 months behind schedule, basically, because I just lost 6 months of writing. But yeah, you are theoretically, you need to be in a position. So right now, I've just handed in edits on book 3 at the end of October.
Congrats on that, by the way.
Thanks, man. Yeah, thank you. Man, that was mental. It ended up being a first draft I handed in, and the edits were minimal, and I was like, this is excellent news. If my first drafts are clean enough to have minimal edits, I'm a happy boy. So yeah, I'm really glad that's it. I'm now writing book 4, because mine's a 4-book series. So I'm writing book 4 now, although I haven't actually done a great deal on it recently, because I got other, as we were talking about off air, I got other madness going on in my life that's getting in the way at the moment. So, but yeah, it's a lot of waiting, and you just have to learn to switch hats quickly. You know, I've seen other trad authors talk about the fact that, you know, they go out to talk about a book they're launching, and they're like, this is so weird for me because I haven't looked at this book in a year and a half.
Right.
Like, I haven't, you know,
dude, I've witnessed that so many times on the interview side of things, where it's like, legit people will say like, man, I gotta like kind of
I don't remember the
off.
yeah.
I gotta go out and remember what actually happened in this book, because I can't talk about it anymore.
Exactly, dude. Exactly. Yeah, it is kind of
and I think it's
surreal.
You guys know, you know, when you're especially when you're drafting something, your mind has to fully like inhabit that world and those characters. So I think it just makes so much sense. It's hard. It's hard to. You only have so much mental space. I think I can draft. The most I can do is draft one and edit another. But even that, like I don't know how anyone like drafting 2 things at once. That's just crazy to me. Like
I couldn't do it.
I don't know how anyone does that. Because it just takes so much mental space. Like you're thinking about it constantly. It's like it's too much almost. You know, it's overwhelming. For me, I guess it's important, but it's overwhelming. It's like the characters, and you're just thinking about it night and day. You're waking up in the night and sweating, and I don't know how anyone can do more than one. You know,
I've done it where like
I
can draft and like, you know, loosely outline something at the same time.
Right.
Like,
just
that's possible. Yeah, but like the actual process is so intensive.
Yeah, I have enough difficulty trying to fend off ideas for new things that I'm not writing yet.
All the time.
It's like, you know, I'll be like, oh, I've got that's a really cool idea for that character for this. And I'm like, Rain, piss off. That's not what I'm supposed to be writing right now. Like, take that idea and hold it for like 6 months, and then I'll get back to you.
That's why I have like I have my Word doc. I just be like, you go over there for a little while, so I don't forget about you.
That just happened to me, Justin, where I'm drafting right now a middle grade novel, which I'm excited about. A middle grade fantasy novel, and I'm a good way into that. But then suddenly, like an adult fantasy novel, like which I had in the back, like came to the front for some reason, for a very specific reason. I'm not going to get into it. And then I had to like write the first chapter of it, and it was just like, why am I doing this to myself? This is so terrible it's like totally derailing me, but I had to do it. And then I sent it off to Ed, and it was like, can we pitch this?
But see, that sometimes actually, I think sometimes you've just got to get out of your head.
Right.
You just have to get out of your head, because that's kind of like how I ended up writing The Bitter Crown one, because I started out trying to write the sequel to Carpet Diem, and then I ended up writing The Lost War because it was screaming at me to write it, and I just had to write that. And then I went back to try to write the sequel to Carpet Diem, and then COVID hit, and I couldn't write funny, and I was like, okay, I can't do this right now, and I ended up writing The Bitter Crown instead. And this was all before Spiffbo and the Orbit deal and everything. But yeah, sometimes like whatever's screaming at you, you just have to get it out of your head, because it won't let you do anything else.
Yeah. I completely agree. But for me, I tend to dip into like other creative avenues when it's really sort of like nagging at me. So sometimes I'll just be like, fuck it, I'm gonna spend like an evening just drawing stuff. And then I'll use that to kind of like let that steam off and let that idea have some sort of existence, and then get back to the thing that I'm like, okay, I have to actually focus on this now.
That's nice.
I've taken to sometimes just writing notes in my phone. I'll just open my notes app on my phone and be like, right, idea for this book, and then just type it all out. And it can be like, you know, it can be like an exchange of dialogue, or it can be a concept, or it can just be a character. So it's in my phone, it's in my notes, and therefore I can stop trying to remember it and thinking about it, and I can come back to it later.
I'm the same way. I've been writing. I've actually been drafting on my phone. Just again, it's just the craziness of 3 little kids and like dropping them off at activities, and like I'm not carrying my laptop everywhere. So I've actually been drafting a lot on my phone, which I hate. I like hate myself when I'm doing it, but I'm doing it, and you're exactly right. It's like I'm writing dialogue. I'm just getting those beats down, and it is what it is. You're writing. I guess you know it's not the medium that I want to be. It's not the perfect like space that I want to be writing in, but you're getting the words down.
No, but the thing is, like, you need that release at some point, and even if it's writing on your laptop or writing in a notebook or writing on your phone. That's the thing I learned writing Mushroom Blues, because I was like, well, shit, like my kids are demanding in their own ways, and I just kind of have to take advantage of any free moment that I have. And so whatever's in front of me or whatever I make available in front of me, just roll with it.
Yeah.
It's like if I only have my phone, there's like a Google Doc for a specific book. Just fill that shit out, and then later on, then I can put that into Scrivener and kind of like organize it in a way that feels a bit more coherent. But if I just like let it sit there in my head with no way to become tangible, then it's like, well, shit, then you have the possibility of losing something really, like a really good idea or a really bit of dialogue, or just like anything that could be really worthwhile for the book.
Yeah.
I once literally woke up from a dream in the middle of the night with a notion that this dream that I'd had would be great as a basis for an idea for a story of some sort. Didn't know what it would be, but I was like, this is really interesting. And I was literally away on like a campsite with my ex at the time. And the only paper I could find was a roll of toilet paper.
Oh my God!
I literally got this pen and scrawled these notes on this toilet paper in the middle of the night, and was like, "Okay, now I can go back to sleep. I've got that down." I woke up in the morning and it was absolute garbage. It was like there was a five-a-side football game in my grandma's back garden, and I was like, "What is this?"
Well, you did write it on toilet paper, so it was guaranteed to be
That's
shit.
exactly where it belonged. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you had a pen, but you didn't have paper. What is that?
Right. I'm glad you had a pen.
Just writing in blood.
Yeah.
Long before people carried their phones in their pockets and could just write on whatever they wanted.
Yeah. It is very useful in that sense. But yeah, I think process is just like, I don't know. It's this ever evolving thing. And I gave up on the muse a long time ago. It was like, the muse is never waiting for me, so I'm not going to wait for the muse. And that was something I learned while I was tattooing, where I was like, yeah, I kind of like have an appointment with this person, so I can't just dick around until inspiration strikes me and I find the perfect moment to draw it. It's like, that could leave me like 5 minutes to an appointment and still not have their design ready.
Yeah, you just have to give yourself the opportunity, give yourself the at-bats, right? And some stuff, is shit, and then every once in a while, decent.
behind the scenes, the majority of it is shit until we revise it, and then it becomes something better.
I actually so when I was doing the edits on the third book, on the Damned King, there were a couple of chapters where the notes were like, "Oh, this needs some work. The pacing's not quite right." And I was like, "Oh, is it okay? Let me look at this chapter." And I was in it, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I remember thinking this was shit when I was writing it. Yeah, it does need work here upstairs." It was just like, "Oh yeah, I was having a really bad day when I wrote this. I wasn't in the mood. I wasn't in the zone at all. And this is crap. I need to fix this chapter. The pacing's all wrong, and the prose is flat, and it's just dull." So it was funny actually being reminded. I was like, "Oh yeah, no, I was having a bad day when I wrote this."
Yeah, but you can turn a bad day into something cool, at the very least.
Oh yeah, that's what editing's for. Exactly.
You
can't edit a blank page, but you can turn a shit chapter into a good one.
Yeah. John brought up something that I kind of want to dig into a little bit more. It makes me laugh because there are a lot of people, mostly romance or romantasy authors, who have the notion that self-pub is a stain that keeps you from getting traditionally published, which is definitely a lie, considering both of you guys have ended up at this point. But like, I don't know, like going through the process of SBFBO right now, it's been really interesting to see the sorts of attention that kind of like trickle your way, depending on like where you're at in the self-pub community and sphere. And the thing is, like, I've noticed that editors and PR people and folks that work at traditional publishing houses do pay attention to a lot of what's going on in self-pub. So like, what was it like for you guys? Like, Justin, you won SPFBO, and then got a deal with Orbit. Alex, you were a finalist, and I think you sought out representation and kind of sought out that path, but made it successful. That was how it happened, right?
Yeah, a little bit back and forth.
Sort of. Yeah. Like, can you guys talk to that a bit? Because I'm at a point where I've seen what you guys have done. I've seen what a few other authors have done, and I'm like, huh, yeah. Like to me, it's an interesting potential opportunity to kind of like look at what you guys have done.
To speak to John, I think it was John's point. I think that's, I mean, like from all appearances where we are right now with like self-pub versus trad, it's like, why is that even still why are we even still talking? I mean, obviously we're talking about it because they're two different, ways of publishing, but like, as far as the viability of well-received self-pub books to go to trad, that should not even be a question anymore. Like, as far as like, I think we're long past the days of like, if you self-pub something that's seen as a stain or as a mark against you. If anything, if you have a successful self-pub career, it's going to work for you, given you have a proven track record for editors and publishing houses to look at. So I don't even know that shouldn't even be a conversation anymore, in my opinion. Like,
but the thing is,
I mean,
Justin, like when Justin and I were at Worldcon back in August, this wasn't something that specifically happened while we were together, but like I did have friends who felt a certain animosity from people who were in the trad sphere. Like yeah. So it's like it wasn't like a blanket thing. I felt like between the majority of people, there was a lot of respect and a lot of mutual appreciation for what everyone is doing as creatives and as authors. But there were some friends of mine who experienced a bit of animosity from traditionally published authors or people working at certain publishing houses.
Well, that's
really interesting. So was it animosity, or was it just kind of like, oh, I'm not talking to you? Was it kind of like just dismissive, or was it like genuinely like dislike?
Combination. Like on some accounts that it was dislike, and others where it's like someone literally just like walked away when they started a conversation. They started a conversation and it's like, oh, who are you published by? And it's like, I'm self-published. And then it's like, I don't have time for you then. Fuck you.
And I think that's less about, in my opinion, it's less about self-pub and trad pub and more about people,
individual people,
assholes. Wherever they work, wherever that person is, they're going to be an asshole. So it's like,
true.
I mean, I've heard about, I'm not going to say who, but I've heard about a particular writer in the genre who I've been told like won't speak to very many people unless they feel like the people they're talking to are on the same level as them with their kind of level of sales and success. And I'm like, okay. And I heard it from more than one person. So it was like, okay, well, this is obviously a thing.
Right.
I guess I understand, like, from an efficiency standpoint, if you're like George Martin or you're freaking Stephen King, whoever you're talking to, you have to like manage your relationships. But I don't think
it wasn't either of them.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, George from what everyone at the convention experienced was like, even if it was a brief moment, like a minute, there was still respect and respect for the person and the time.
I've heard that too. So, I think we're just people. Those people just are.
I think it's as Alex said, I think it's a person to person thing. I think there are some people who will think that they have achieved a certain level, and therefore they're not going to talk to people who are below that level, and they're only going to talk to like people at their level, and that's wherever they are and wherever they consider themselves to be in the hierarchy. That's how they're going to behave, whoever they are.
And I think from what I've heard from friends anecdotally who are traditionally published, like I want to get your guys' take, but like from the sounds of it, even though corporations are inherently hierarchical, that the process has been surprisingly enjoyable and has been fruitful, not necessarily across the board, but for a lot of people that I know. How's it been for you guys then?
So like, there's definitely ups and I think for me, there's a lot of ups and downs. Like there's parts that like everything. There's as far as like the individuals I've worked with in trad, for the most part, have been great. Whether it be editors or PR folks, they all are very well intentioned and good people and lovely in many ways, just like you would encounter with people that you are hiring or collaborating with or working with in self-pub. I think there definitely needs to be, for me, the mental aspect of having less control over marketing, and you feel like you're getting put in a bit of a rat race, or like pitted against, much like SPFBO, pitted against like your fellow authors, when that's just an illusion. And so it certainly, I don't want it to come off as like trad is just stress-free. And I think if you're really invested in this as a career or hobby or profession, whatever you're looking for out of it, if you have a deep investment into being an author, which I think all of us do, it can create a lot of stress. Like you're wondering how your book's doing, how much marketing push the company is putting behind it, and it's not an equal playing field. That's just a straight, like you have lead titles, and then you have mid listers, and then you have books that probably don't get much attention at all. And again, it doesn't usually have to do with bad people within the publishing sphere. It just has to do with like bandwidth and money and where the money is flowing, and that's hard to come to terms with, and that was something that was hard to wrap my head around. Justin, did you have?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Yeah, I mean the thing I didn't know coming into traditional publishing is I did not understand the difference between a lead title and a mid-list title, and you learn it very quickly. You learn very quickly that the lead titles are the ones that get all the money thrown at them and all the marketing and all they get flown to events and get their hotels paid for, and the rest of us are all scrapping for what's left over. And that's the way the industry is just structured. And so, I echo everything Alex says. I mean, we both are through Orbit, and I have not a bad thing to say about anybody I've experienced with Orbit. They've all been really lovely. They're really nice people. I probably do more work directly with the US office because that's where I signed to my editors over there. I have a great relationship with my editor, Bradley. But I socialize more with the London office, funnily enough, because they're on the same continent.
Exactly, yeah.
They're also all really lovely. Like I've been out drinking with them, not like out drinking with them, but I've been at events with them. I suppose we have been out drinking a few times. And they're just really nice, get on really well with them. They're lovely. They're really nice people. And they all seem to really enjoy their job. They all seem to be really genuinely nice people. So yeah, it is literally just the way publishing is structured. The way it works is, if you're not a lead title, which is a small percentage of the titles that get signed each year, then you're a mid list, and you're, it's probably a slightly clumsy metaphor to say you're one of the strands of spaghetti thrown at the wall to see what sticks, but it can feel like that.
I think it's good. That's true.
It can definitely feel like that sometimes.
Just pure chaos splattering on the wall.
Kind of.
I mean,
I've been very lucky that I've got some really good relationship with some books, particularly in Edinburgh. I've got really good relationship with booksellers in Edinburgh, and they've been massively supportive, and that's just a big help. It's just, if they're still ordering books and get me to go in and sign them every few months, and they're getting through that, that's great. That's amazing, because it not only is sales, but it's also generating more potential for word of mouth, and that's amazing. And having a good relationship with booksellers is a really beneficial thing. But there's only so much you can do. yourself individually. You know, there are only so many buttons you can push. There's only so much, you know, jumping around on social media, and just so I just try to kind of be myself as much as possible and hope that that ends up having some kind of beneficial effect.
No, dude, that's what I've experienced over the last 8 months. Is like, obviously in self-pub you have to put in, I mean, you have to wear the different hats and put in effort across the board. But at the same time, like, I know a lot of traditionally published authors who are also doing a lot in terms of social media content and like you're saying about building relationships with booksellers and different things, different people like that. Like, those are all things that I've had to do as an indie author as well. So I think just the marketplace in general kind of necessitates authors wear multiple hats at once. And, you know, I do know a lot of indie authors who are kind of like, I only want to write. And part of me is like, that's fucking awesome. And I wish I could be like that. But then the marketer inside me is like, yeah, that's not going to serve you well in the long run. And it's been like a very difficult thing for me to switch off the marketing hat since launch, and trying to get myself into a position of like fully invested in the next project. And it's not like, both sides, you make it look easy, but it's not easy at all. Cause I'm like, I feel like I'm just wrapping up the audiobook in the next couple days, just going through like some final passes with my producer. And that for me is kind of like, that's it. Like, I put out this audiobook and now I feel like I've accomplished what I need to accomplish with Mushroom Blues, because it's been so fucking much.
Yeah,
sure.
You've been doing a lot. I think actually with Trad, it's not until this third book that I've started to hit the groove of being able to jump back and forth between marketing brain and continuing to work on new projects brain.
Yeah.
And that's really a tough nut to crack. That is so tough to be, especially coming from self-pub where it's all on you. That was a tough hurdle, you know, trying to break that mindset. But it's funny because I think there is some big benefit to Trad, where like, you know, you're going to do so much. You're going to go on social media, you're going to promote, you're going to do events, you're going to try to do, you know, bookstores and do what you can. But at the end of the day, it is nice to know that there is hopefully some element of the publisher that is going to continue like to push the books in some element. They have their salespeople. They are in connection with booksellers. A lot of that internal stuff that you don't actually see, like everything on the self-pub end is external. All the marketing efforts, and then the internal stuff is work with like your own work with KDP, right? And like determining whether it's global and this blah blah blah. But like the publisher, what they're doing internally is like their direct relationships, the salespeople relationships, the newsletters that they send out internally to booksellers, etc. So it is.
Dude, that's not something that I realized, that it's like every publisher has like essentially a bookseller directed newsletter.
Yep.
Oh, I think we
lost Adrian. Can you hear me, Justin?
I can hear you, mate. I think it's just Adrian that we've lost, unfortunately.
He is frozen.
Oh, he's gone. Hopefully he's back.
There he is.
I'm back. Sorry about that. I was in the middle of talking and it didn't want me to talk. But that's the thing. Like, I didn't realize that there are certain streams of information that traditional publishing houses have that we wouldn't even think about, to be like, every bookseller in America will receive a newsletter from Orbit or whomever, and that has all the information. And it's like, a self-pub author like could only dream of being able to reach out to that many booksellers at once.
And that's why the lead titles, that's why there is such a discrepancy between a lead title. That's where the publishers, their real might, so to speak, their distribution comes into effect. They can, it's not really on those external, I mean, they're going to put more money towards external marketing and social media, sponsored ads, but like that's really only the icing. It's really those internal distribution efforts that is going to move books, aggressively. And that, again, that's something that you have to just come to terms with. You have almost no control over. I mean, I've tried. I've sent. I think with the first book, I sent out about 800 pamphlets to like Barnes and Nobles. I don't know how. I don't know how many. I don't know how much of an effect that had, but I literally had a spreadsheet of like 800 Barnes and Nobles.
Wow, dude.
And then
That's the self-pub author inside you, having a fucking
spreadsheet. Yeah, I was scrapping, man.
Hey, listen,
I mean, I gotta think.
I was running Facebook ads on one of my launches. I was just like, okay, I'm going to do this myself as well. So I was just
that is the self-pub author in you
too. I know how to make them work. I'm going to run some
Yeah.
Facebook ads around this launch because I was just like, I can't do nothing. I can't not do anything.
I mean, an interesting story I heard from a middle grade author recently was like, I guess one of the few places in trad that an author can have a big, nice banner there. An author can have a big effect on is middle grade. They have in the US, they have school visits. And so you can, like this one author, I think his name is Scott Ryan Guyton or something to that effect. He had a recent New York Times bestseller. He facilitated just by cold emailing like hundreds of schools around the country, getting in contact with the librarians and setting up school visits, which again, I had being not in middle grade or children's, I had no knowledge of this, but he was able to just like create a massive amount of momentum because when you set up a school visit, oftentimes the school will order or pre-order books in various ways. So then the publishers started seeing the momentum, and they'll essentially pick a winning horse. They'll start throwing more weight behind it. So like, but that required this guy to like essentially spend like 150 days of the year, traveling to schools, which is awesome. Sounds awesome, but you gotta have the bandwidth to do something like that.
I mean, just like the physical and mental fortitude to pull something like that off. Just
and the money, money to do the traveling.
Yeah.
You got to have
money, exactly.
To like stay at like a motel.
Yeah, I saw a really interesting post the other day by someone who used to be a bookseller in an indie bookshop, and she said she had a general rule of how many pre-orders it took for her to get a book in, and it was like 1 pre-order, I better take a closer look at this. 2 pre-orders, I definitely want to get this in. 3 pre-orders, I want to get enough in to have this face out on the shelf. 4 pre-orders, I'm going to put this on a table at the front of the shop. And it's like, that's really interesting to know. So like 4 people pre-ordering a book in the same shop.
Right.
And the booksellers are going to be like, okay, we're paying attention. And
that's basically
interesting information to have.
That's basically like what Travis Baldry pulled off with.
His story is so interesting prior to getting picked up by Tor.
Because it was all just reader interest and the actual booksellers being like, oh, people are interested in this, or booksellers reading the book and thinking like, we should order this in, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then I mean, Indigo chapters in Canada is very straightforward, whereas like I was actually able to get in touch with one of the consignment buyers in Ontario and basically get my book into the system, which then allows any store across Canada to order the book in. But then Barnes & Noble, I don't know how it works in the UK, Justin, but like Barnes & Noble is super just
closed,
unnecessarily difficult to be able to do it. I imagine like Waterstones is probably the same thing.
Yeah, trying to get your book on the shelves of a major bookseller. Yeah, Waterstones is essentially our equivalent of Barnes & Noble. And trying to get your book on the shelves of Waterstones as an indie is just like banging your head against the wall.
Yeah,
well,
because what they want to know is
changed on.
Yeah, what they want to know is that what marketing is going to go behind it. And like going back to what we were talking about earlier, like one of the So there are a lot of signals that publishers send to booksellers to let them know that there's going to be a lot of marketing push behind a book. And that's, they let them know what the lead titles are going to be. They do a special edition hardback for the first release rather than a straight paperback release. They let them know they're going to have like point of sale materials. They're going to, they may be paid to have the book put on a table at the front. They do a lot of things that let the booksellers know, oh, this book is going to have a big marketing push. We need to get a lot of copies in, and then it becomes a virtuous circle because they've got a lot.
Isn't that just like a self-fulfilling prophecy at that point? Though?
Yeah. So they've got. I mean, so I don't know if you guys listen to Publishing Rodeo podcast.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, they
shout out to Sunny and Scott.
Like, great podcast, love it. They had that episode where they had the woman on. I can't remember what her name was because I'm terrible with names, but she had done the research and she said the one thing that always correlates with a successful book is marketing spend, and everything else barely moves the dial. You occasionally get books that just word of mouth takes off and they work, like Travis. Travis was a great example of that. You occasionally get that, but most of the time, I know I was speaking, I interviewed Jay Kristoff last year or earlier this year. I lose track of time. And I was asking him about Nevernight, and he was like, oh, Nevernight wasn't a lead. Nevernight was just supposed to be a mid-list title, and it just took off. Word of mouth, it took off, and that's what made him Jay Kristoff now. So it does happen. And I think that's I think publishing companies are kind of just, I talked about throwing spaghetti at the wall. The ones that stick are the ones that take off because word of mouth just launches them and they don't see it coming. It's, it's similar to kind of Hollywood, where every now and again a movie just breaks out in Hollywood that nobody thought was going to be huge, but everybody loves it.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting how self-pub now figures into it, because they're getting, the reason why they're buying up so much self-pub is because they don't have to throw it at the wall and see if it sticks. They know
they can already see, based on like the pre-existing market value of that author and their books, like
that's it.
That was already the spaghetti throwing experiment, so they can just pick you up and kind of
and
build on your pre-existing
that combined
audience.
with like collect the whole collectible movement of special editions. I think they essentially are able to combine those two streams where they know that the self-pub, if there's a self-pub book that is super successful and has a big fan base, they're going to buy the book again if they put out a beautiful a great example that is doing, I think, really well is Blood Over Brighthaven by Emma Wong. I love all of her work. She's awesome. Sort of Kaigan, but Blood Over Brighthaven was picked up by Del Rey, and they put out a beautiful. I don't even think it's a barn.
It's so pretty.
It's so pretty, and like I'm sure that I would buy it again. And, Del Rey put it out, and I think it's really killing it right now. So I think it's a little scary though that I don't know if they're just taking advantage of
I'm pretty sure Broken Binding already has
Broken Binding. Yeah, I was going to say.
Hey,
I've seen the Broken Binding one.
Yeah, we got Broken Binding, and maybe some others. But yeah, I think it's interesting, just all these different streams of books from self-pub, and they're kind of going back and forth now.
Yeah. And at the same time, like, I'm really, really appreciative of people like Matt and the Broken Binding, because they are championing they're championing indie in a way that nobody has before. And they're able to sort of like elevate the status of indie even farther beyond what I already think was like this like growing sort of like parity between trad and indie in terms of quality, in terms of creativity, in terms of the actual presentation of books. And then Broken Binding is like, okay, we're going to make indie books like even more desirable, even more beautiful, and kind of like grow that market as well. And now with like TBB Press, and like, who would have thought like Ryan Cahill like signing a 6-figure deal with the Broken Binding? Like 6-figure deal is the type of shit that you only ever hear of from trad, which is so
That's
cool.
Incredible. No, I love
the most successful authors I know who are making the most bank on their careers are bar one all self-published.
Yep, like Mike Miller, Philip Cointrell, Ryan,
Yeah.
just write dragon fantasy, people, but don't. Then you're going to oversaturate the market. Nobody's going to want it anymore.
But yeah, those three guys, and you know, those three guys, not only are they killing it, they're also three of the nicest guys you can meet. I had lunch with the three of them and a couple other guys at I think it was FantasyCon last year, and just really nice guys who will sit and chat, and they're great to hang out with. Really good guys.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with them in the UK. Like, had dinner with Mike and a group of people, and spent a lot of time with Ryan. Too much time with Ryan. Just a little bit sick of him, but I love him.
Time just sort of dilates and you lose track of it entirely.
Oh my God.
I got a funny story about Ryan. So I started seeing Ryan's name all over the place, and was like, oh, this guy's killing it. This is great. He's doing really well. And he sent me a message on Facebook Messenger and reminded me of a conversation we'd had like 2 years previously, where he'd emailed me just to ask about he was writing his first book and he was asking me for some advice on how I work with beta readers for my books. And so we had a back and forth, and like that happens every now and again. I get somebody message me like, hey, can you give me some advice? And we just have a chat. And then often I never hear from them again. And I'd completely forgotten I'd ever spoken to him. And he was like, so this worked out well. And I was like, dude, you killed me.
Yeah. And then people like Ryan do their due diligence in terms of paying it forward. Like,
like
absolutely. Ryan and Rob Hayes, like both of them.
Rob's up.
Yeah.
Rob's amazing. I messaged both of them and was like, hey, can you guys walk me through some of like what I kind of framed as like self-pub essentials? Because this is my first time doing this, and I wasn't going into it blind, but I definitely had a lot to figure out. And then Ryan, I had a call with Ryan, and then I had a call with Rob separately, and both of them just like laid out tons and tons of shit for me that really helped solidify my confidence in being like, okay, like I'm not afraid to do this anymore. Like I can submit a book on KDP. I mean, I took the extra step of like designing the whole thing myself, like the interior and then also the cover design. I'm like, yeah, I can figure this out. And I managed to do it. And Ryan and Rob were super helpful, but there's so many people along the way, that were very happy to respond and very happy to help out, you know? And I think that maybe like, go ahead.
That's something with self-pub. I mean, again, I think with self-pub, you get a lot more folks like that, just because they came up from, I mean, not that trad debut authors aren't scrapping and they're spending years and years writing manuscripts and going through the slush pile. So it's its own kind of uphill climb. But I think with self-pub authors, there seems to be, and I'm seeing it actually bleed over into trad, this community where everyone is supporting themselves. I mean, I actually have a story with Hugh Howey, who's like obviously a massive author, and he, you know, when I was first pushing my stuff out, he had a phone call with me and just like gave me tips out of nowhere and was just like
amazing,
glad to pay it forward. I think I've had many other authors that have helped out in that manner.
But I think
that is true of trad too, though, because I have a similar story with Sebastian de Castel. I met him at Chimera,
Sebastian's great.
We got on really well. We were chatting. We went out. We had dinner. We hung out for the rest of the day. And I was just like, you know, I had so many noob questions about traditional publishing. I was like, look, I've got these sales figures, but I don't know what they mean. I don't know if this is good or not. I don't know if the publisher are going to be happy. And he was like, okay, listen, when I get home, we'll jump on a call. And we ended up on like a Zoom call for like an hour and a half, where he basically like showed me his sales figures, talked me through them, told me what I needed to be looking out for and I have to say, it was surprisingly lower than I expected. Like the expectations of how many sales a trad book has to sell to be considered viable are so much lower than I thought they were going to be. I was really? Shit, that's all? But it's because the publishers make so much more per book than you do. So you're like you're thinking about, am I going to earn out my advance? And actually the publisher is making profit long before you earn out your advance. So
No, there's a lot of misinformation that floats around on that topic.
Dude, it's so, but I think there's like, this is why I talked to Sonia a little bit about this, but like, I'm so glad there's like more, not just them, but Publishing Rodeo, I think it was one of those moments in the community where it kind of like, it didn't burst the bubble of the zeitgeist, but it punctured a little hole in there enough that like people started to realize that there is so little transparency amongst this industry. And the thing is, like, authors are scared of sharing a lot of information. And publishers don't necessarily want that information to be public because their business model is working for them based on the fact that it has been working this way for quite some time. So there are certain things that, especially when it comes to debut authors and contracts and advances and all this different kind of stuff, there's so little transparency. And I'm really thankful to people like Scott and Sunyi. Listening to their podcast while doing my own podcast, those two in conjunction kind of convinced me like, I'm going to self-pub it. Fuck this.
No, you guys have your podcast has done a great job, and Publishing Rodeo too. I think that those things are so important for transparency. I think
I think now, like in the last couple of years, there's been such an explosion of information that authors can not only find publicly, but also reach out to other authors who are a little bit more established, or just like stuff on YouTube. The amount of stuff that you can find on YouTube where it's just like, here's an author talking very transparently about their career and their business and their successes and their failures. And I think that goes such a long way to be like, if you're going in blind to self-publishing or trad publishing, it's kind of your own fault at this point, because there's so much more information out there.
Yes and no. I think I did a really bad job of finding the community before I published my first book.
Right.
And I think that's probably,
was that before you published self-pub or before you went trad?
Before I published self-pub.
Okay.
I had a weird, my first book was published by Carpentier and was first published by a really small indie press. So technically it wasn't self-pubbed. They were a really small indie press, and then I took the rights back after a couple of years, and I self-published it just because it was a business decision, basically. They were really nice guys. They just didn't have a marketing budget, and so I was ending up spending a lot of my own money on the marketing anyway. And it was like, well, if I'm going to spend this anyway, I might as well do it myself. Yeah. But I had not really found. I certainly hadn't found this community in the way that I did originally through Spiffbo, I suppose, but also through going to events like FantasyCon here in the UK. I did not do a good job at all of finding my tribe, as everybody should go out and do, because it makes such a difference to you surviving in what is otherwise a very solitary, lonely career where you can quietly go mad in a room by yourself. So I didn't do a very good job of that. And I've wandered off the point of why the hell I was making that point now. I can't remember what I was going to say. But I was going to say, so that information is all out there.
Right.
But if you haven't kind of worked your way into the community to be pointed at that information in the first place, you can come into it quite blind. So I've had people so I started doing a thing called the Right Advice with Stephen Aryan and Anna Stevens earlier this year, and basically we're doing sort of mentoring and editing for new writers, and those writers are coming in, and they know nothing, because they're not part of the community. They're coming in, all they've got is, I've got this book I want to write, I've got this idea, I've got this book I want to write, can you help me get it to where it needs to be, can you help me get it published? And they don't have the information, they don't have all that kind of knowledge base behind them, and so we're talking them through stuff like, okay, listen, here's the benefits of going the traditional route. Here are the downsides. It's going to take a long time. There's a lot of waiting. There's gatekeeping to get through. You do it yourself. You can self-publish it yourself. But then it's a business. It is not just publishing it, putting up on Amazon, and it will sell. You then have to think about marketing spend. You have to think about PR. You have to. You become, as you said, a whole business. And so there are a lot of people still coming in where all they know is, I've got this book I want to write. I've got this
Right.
book I want to get published. And they do need led by the hand. And I think it's good that there are still writers who are prepared to just go, okay, here, let me tell you something.
So I guess that's a misconception on my part in terms of because I think the community is a direct line to discovering more information and basically opening the floodgates for everything that you need to know. So my misconception, I guess, is like, if you don't have the community to open your eyes to that kind of stuff, then how do you know what to look for? How do you know where to look?
Exactly.
Bo's got some good questions. Which mainstream social media platform do you feel has provided the best return in terms of finding and growing your readership? Dude, that's a fucking crapshoot these days.
So much has changed. A lot has changed, right? Like, obviously back in the day, Twitter was like, it was the spot anymore. And,
before it became the Nazi hellscape.
Yeah, a lot of people are off there, and like Instagram is great because you can just post pictures, but who knows if it actually sells books. So that's
for me personally, YouTube has probably been the most beneficial. Like YouTube in conjunction with podcasts, because I put a lot of effort into my book tour, and majority of the book tour was doing podcast interviews or YouTube interviews, live streams, that kind of stuff. And I've continued to do that stuff since launch. And I feel like that has provided me certain connections and certain friendships that have developed. Like, just a couple weeks ago, MJ and I did a live stream with Mike from Mike's Book Reviews, and it's like his channel has like 125K subscribers.
Mike's great.
That like making those friendships and developing those connections. The guys on To Ramble as well, who do a really great podcast that really hits hard and gains a lot of traction on YouTube specifically. Doing stuff with them. And even if it's a small channel, that still kind of builds into what I fucking hate algorithms, but it feeds into an algorithm that then feeds into the other algorithm that matters most as an indie author, which is Amazon.
That's actually the advice that I give now. If you're going from self-pub to trad, or you're just a debut trad mid-list author, what can you actually do that will have the most effect? In my opinion, it is creating assuming that your publisher is going to send out advanced copies or early copies of your physical book. Okay, and that's a big if, I guess, but assuming you have enough backing from your publisher that there's going to be some level of early copies or advanced copies, creating a list of influencers, so YouTube booktubers, TikTok, Book Talk, whatever you want to call it, spending the time and curating a list based on looking at previous books that they enjoyed, ones that are in your wheelhouse, and literally creating a spreadsheet and passing that off to your PR person is, in my opinion, going to have the largest bang for your buck. In that they often will, they're going to be curating their own list. That's part of what they do. But again, we're talking about bandwidth here. They have a large stable of authors that they have to cater to. It's not like you get your own PR person. And so if you can help them out anywhere that you can provide them support by doing some of that legwork, and maybe you have some inside information, you know your book better than anyone else.
And it could also be like, I have been a fan of a particular booktuber or bookstagrammer or whatever podcast for a certain amount of time.
Right.
Hey, I would love to do an interview with these people. And
these booktubers do have established, the bigger ones especially, have established relationships with all the publishers where they're getting books from them already. And unfortunately, if you're just a self-pub author that has no prior rep, just sending a book to one of these or getting in touch with one of these larger booktubers is going to be tough. You're going to have to break through all the noise. And that's where what Adrian's talking about, relationships are really important in that case.
Absolutely.
But that, in my opinion, is going to have, because these people have, as opposed to social media where yeah, you're going to get retweeted or posted. But like if you have someone that has a following and people have giant followings and people will buy books based on the recommendations, if you can get them to review or show off your book or read your book, that's going to be huge. And that's also long term in that all these YouTube videos or TikTok videos, they're not a one-off hit. I mean, if you ever go on any of these platforms, those videos are re-recommended by the algorithm.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of like you're getting some long-term sustainability where people are going to continually be watching that video that blogger did on you. And it's going to keep coming up again for new readers. It's not like just a one-off hit. It's going to have a long tail effect. And
it's
so
like,
I think that's especially YouTube. TikTok, I know, is big too. So that'll have some effect as well.
But I think I did this just the other day, just out of curiosity. But like I just searched my name and Mushroom Blues on YouTube just to see what, because on like Google and YouTube, it's like they're playing with this SEO algorithm.
Yeah.
So it's like search engine optimization. And I just, out of curiosity, like on YouTube, searched my name, searched Mushroom Blues, and just looked at like the list of things that come up based on and who has collaborated with me on content. None of it is SFF Addicts, surprisingly. Like the first page, like none of it is SFF Addicts, which I was surprised by because that's the thing I put out every single week. But there was so much of it where it was like, the Tutor Ramble podcast that I did with Mike Miller, like a panel that I did with him and Keith Enterante. There was the stuff that I did with Mike's book reviews. There's some coverage that Daniel Green had of my book as well. And then they were just like sprinkled in there were interviews that I've done. And so it's like, if you can just put in the time, because I will tell you now, like my marketing budget for Mushroom Blues since the day it's come out has been sub $200 US. All of it has just been about taking advantage, not in a bad way, but like taking advantage of the connections that I've built over the last years and contacting people and doing interviews. And the biggest investment will be time. But if you're going to be an author, you have to understand that like just writing a book is a time investment that is not guaranteed to see return. And so you kind of have to treat marketing in a similar way. Where it's like, Justin, you did Facebook ads and that's something that I was like talking to Andy Pelican about. And I dabbled with it a little bit in the beginning, but then I realized like it wasn't really working out for me. And I knew that I could develop a better marketing strategy without putting in time into Facebook ads and however the hell their algorithm functions. So it's like, there are things that you can do where you don't have to spend money, but there are other things where it's like, I know Andy and a bunch of other authors who are like, a big part of their marketing is like, here's the money that I make from my books, and here's the money that I put into advertising each month on Amazon and Facebook and whatever. But, I think that probably doesn't work well for a debut author. That works better when you have.
It can. It can. I did make it work for my debut book. I did, and I made it work.
But Justin, that was also years ago. So.
Oh my God, yeah, that was years ago.
Yeah.
That was, I mean, Jesus, yeah, it was 9 years ago. You're absolutely right. But I was making it work at like £1 a day. I was just, I'm going to experiment with this and see what works and find the stuff that actually makes a difference and actually sees sales go up. And that's how I did it. And I spent sort of a couple of years learning how to do that, figuring out what actually worked. Figuring out who the target audience were, figuring out how Facebook's ad system worked, figuring out how to best use it. And then so when I went myself in 2018 and self-published it, I had a really good grounding of, I knew what was going to work and I knew what, and then it was about, I mean, it's lots of things. It's like experiment with things like, where's the sweet spot for the price of the book? Where's the sweet spot where you are selling enough at a lower price that you make more than you would if you put it up by £1 or $1 and you sell much less books. You got to experiment with that. There's so much to experiment. But yeah, I managed to make. I never managed to make Amazon ads work, man. That algorithm is just like That's
I
like
know
code, as far as I'm concerned.
Andy's been able to make it work because he has like 500 fucking books, but I think he's basically just like cross promoting his own work.
Yeah, exactly.
And then branching out to like similar stuff within the indie sphere that he knows will attract eyes back to his stuff. But I think that could be something that might throw a lot of people off, is like the amount of experimentation that goes on in indie. Whereas in trad, you don't have the room for experimentation because so much is out of your hands. Whereas whereas in indie, it's like, I mean, like both of you, I'm pretty sure, like Justin, when you were with the indie press, they gave you a cover, but then when you got the rights back, you did a new cover for the book.
That's right.
And Alex, you did the same thing where it's like you had the original cover for the combat codes, but then you did like a rebranding with the covers that Felix and Sean created and designed for you. So it's like,
I got in.
There's even experimentation there, right? Dude, you did it at the right time with those two.
They now are out of my league.
I got them from. I'll show you guys the cover. I got them from my next book, but it's like shit ain't cheap.
No.
I did it with Lost War too. Like the first Lost War cover, what I didn't think about with it was how it was going to work as a thumbnail, and I really liked it.
Yeah.
But as a thumbnail, it was just too dark. It was way too dark, and so like halfway through Spiffbo, I went and got another one done that was not dark.
I remember.
That actually worked as a thumbnail.
I remember. Justin, I was going to say the other tip that I always like to broadcast is, like, especially I think what we did when we got picked up in the same class, so to speak, with Orbit, is get all the debut authors together in a single Discord. That will change everything. So me and Justin still have a Discord with all the debut authors, Orbit debuts from 2023. And we still chat. It's great. We can talk numbers. We can talk about what our different editors are doing, the marketing push, and that will actually get you some fruitful return. Not only the community, but actual, like, you can see what other people's editors are doing, and you can be very transparent, and you're all working on the same playing field, so to speak, because you're all debuts, and there's going to be discrepancies, and some of it comes out in those chats. So
and it's not just like, I mean, every publisher, like I know Sunyi and Scott became friends because they were in the same Tor debut author Discord, and I think Discord is actually like this like small blessing in a lot of ways, where it's like all the SPFBO finalists have a Discord together. All the SPFBO finalists, like as like a broad group, have like have a Discord together. SPSFC's got a Discord. I'm part of like a debut author group called the Break-Ins, which is just like a bunch of indie authors that we just decided to start building this debut author group. So it's not even like, are you part of like the Tor class of 2023 or the Orbit class, whatever. Even if you're an indie author, it's like you can find your crew, and we all share numbers with each other. We're all very supportive when it comes to like, we're working on edits and beta reads, and here's our new cover, or like here's a cover in progress. Here's like what we're planning for a Kickstarter or a special edition, like all this different kind of stuff. There's so many ways that you can kind of develop an even deeper community. Not necessarily just dependent on like, oh, well, like what's the social platform du jour today?
Right.
Like, are we on Blue Sky or Twitter or Instagram or whatever the fuck? You can kind of make it a little bit more reliable for yourself.
I heard some really interesting analysis about the whole where's everybody going from Twitter, which was interesting, which was all the authors have gone to Blue Sky and all the readers have gone to Threads.
Dude, that's actually true. All the if I get if I go to the Discover tab on Threads, all of it is like, I'm a reader and I'm looking for X type of book. Or like I'm a reader and I want to boost authors in X genre. So it's like, you're totally right. I see so much more reader stuff on Threads because it's an extension of Instagram, obviously, and like the whole Bookstagram scene. But then Blue Sky is just like, it's just like an author orgy. Which is,
it's like, I feel like this has gone wrong. It's like, wait, it's like we're all standing around selling our books to each other.
We're all we all got like towels wrapped around us. I walked into the wrong sauna. Shit.
It's interesting though that the big the big publishers have not yet, as far as I know, they're still just all broadcasting on Twitter, which is interesting because it's like, even from a business, like they all have accounts on the other platforms, but I don't see them actually doing anything.
Yeah. The engagement seems to be very, very lacking. But maybe it'll just take time, I think. Yep. Shout out to Bo and SFF Insiders. They also have a Discord with an author section full of tips and tricks. So there you go. Nice. Shout out, Bo.
I love SFF Insiders.
Yeah. So that's another thing. Like, it doesn't matter if you're into your trad, make the best of the sort of like, I know people might poo-poo blogs and written content, but the numbers actually show that like a lot of the online blogging sites do really solid traffic. So it's like you can find amazing reviewers at like Grimdark Magazine or Before We Go Blog or SFF Insiders or FanFiAddict or what have you. And those are people that you can also reach out to, because it's not necessarily like a guarantee that your PR team will send a physical, let alone a digital arc to these reviewers. If you develop those relationships enough to be like, hey, this is my book, put together a decent pitch package. Don't just be like, hey, I have a book coming out next year. Do you want to see it? It's like, what the fuck's your book about? Like, tell me something, a title, anything, literally. Yeah. But you can reach out to the reviewers, and a lot of them will be very responsive. And what ends up happening at like FanFiAddict, I'm sure Bo does something similar with SFF Insiders, is even if he doesn't necessarily want to review that book, he'll pitch it to the rest of the crew and see like, is anyone interested in this? And chances are there's someone, because there's like well over, I don't know, like 2 dozen people who are doing reviews for SFF Insiders. So it's like, you can take advantage of that as well.
No, those blogs have been extremely supportive for combat codes. All of the ones you've named, SFF Insiders, FanFiAddict through the many years, Grimdark, they've all, because I think they're like bridges between indie and trad. They've all been, that community in general has been like a bridge, which has been really cool to see. So shout out to everyone there, and thank you guys.
Yeah. And again, it's like not necessarily free resources in terms of time, but like free monetarily. It's like none of these reviewers are asking for, I mean, you shouldn't pay a reviewer to review your book. Watch out for that, because you'll see tons of fucking scams all over the place.
Yeah. Oh, man, the number of DMs I get, I'm like, hi, I'd like
it's horrendous.
My prices are very reasonable. I'm like,
yeah,
that's nice. Bye-bye.
Yeah. I actually had someone like email me the other day, and it was a very nice email, and it was very personalized, where they're just like, these are the kinds of books that I love, like crime and mystery and science fiction and all that. And I'm like, okay, awesome. And they're like, we'd be interested in reviewing your book. And from my perspective, I was like, I will happily send you an EPUB if you want to check it out and review it. But then the next response was like, oh, I'm sorry, I guess I wasn't clear, but you pay me for the review. And I was like, what the fuck is this? As if like, I'm sorry I wasn't clear about that by not mentioning it once in the opening email. So from my perspective, I was like, yeah, I'll happily send you like an EPUB copy if you want to review it. But the follow-up saying like, oh, here's my price list. And I'm like, yeah, no, thank you, please.
I mean, I've listened, and they're pushy too. Like, I've had somebody who like, they gave me that pitch and they gave me their price list, and I was just like, I'm sorry, I don't pay for reviews. And they came back like, oh, if the price is an issue, I can get cheaper. And I'm like, dude,
what part do you not understand?
I do not pay for reviews.
Zero.
Oh my God. Yeah. Are you willing to go down completely?
I'll think about it.
Yeah. But the pushier you get, the less enticed I am by this bullshit scam.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. It is very frustrating. But yeah, get used to that. Like before I was an author, I would only get emails or DMs from authors who were pitching me to be on SFF Addicts or pitching me to review their book or check out their book in some capacity. And now it's just completely switched.
Both sides.
No, man, it's like 80% is just like spam DMs about reviewing my book and me paying someone money. I'm like, I would rather not do that. Yeah, it's tricky business. Bo, yeah, he gets both.
Oh, yep.
Bot DMs. I don't even know if they're bots though, because it's like I look at their
Yeah.
profiles and it doesn't seem like typical bot behavior. But
Never know nowadays.
No, I think they are just grifters.
yeah,
It's the ones who are like, I can guarantee you, like, for this much money, 200 reviews. For this much money, 500
Right.
reviews. And it's like, dude.
or the thing is like the more you pay, the more stars I give you. It's like, go fuck yourself.
Oh God, yeah.
You pay me an extra $50, I'll give you a 5-star.
That's not how it works, man. That is
Jesus
just not
Christ.
how it works.
Yeah. So
But, yeah. And some of them are only, I mean, some of them have the cheat that they're probably just trying to get a hold of the EPUB so they can then put it up on a pirate site anyway.
yeah. I sent my first DCMA email the other day.
Nice.
Oh, yeah?
Did it work?
Yeah. Not yet, but there were like 15 of us that sent them to this specific site. If
Yeah,
anyone out there
they're
from
everywhere.
Ocean of PDF is listening, go fuck yourself.
Oh, somebody emailed me about that recently. They were like, "Oh, you're on Ocean of PDF," and I was just like, "Oh God, I've tried."
Yeah,
I like you, like way back, like you. Somebody would tell me about it, and I would try to get in contact with them and get them to take it down. And now I'm just like, "Oh man, I'm too old and tired for this shit."
Yeah.
I can't be bothered.
Yeah. It's like there's enough
But it
about
is
this
a pain
industry
in the
that
ass.
sucks the life out of you
Right.
ever so slowly, let alone all this shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, boys. Well, I think we will start wrapping things up. But Alex, I want to give you a chance to pitch people a little bit more on the combat codes, and then let us know what you're working on next. We've gone an hour and 10 minutes. Yeah.
We haven't actually talked about your books at all, which is what we were here for, right?
Okay.
No, but I think
banner.
Yeah, look at the
Look
banner.
at the banner,
I think
guys. Come
majority
on.
of the time, anyways, is like we always talk shop, which I think is, for the most part, like it's the most beneficial for
No, and again,
us
this is
as the
about
participants.
this is about the tribe. We're talking about getting your tribe, and being. It's a big part for mental health for an author. I think just being able to talk shop it. Because then you see that people are going through the same, wherever they are in their career, they're really going through the same stuff. And you hear it from really established authors, and that's where I know I'm okay when some real big author that I've been looking up to is also dealing with like going crazy on their first draft or that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Combat codes, guys. If you want, I know there's another big book that shall not be named coming out on Thursday. But if you need a palate cleanser before you hit your new Brandon Sanderson book, fast-paced action in a science fantasy world where duels have replaced wars. It has found family. It has a fight academy, if you like, an academy setting. And the trilogy is now complete. So you don't, for those readers that like to wait, do not like to wait, rather, then it's all right there.
If you don't want to wait for Brando Sando's next book.
guys, forget Brandon Sanderson. Come on. And audiobook, if you're an audio listener, the narration's fantastic. The Orbit narrator, Donald Chang, did a wonderful job. And yeah, actually the Kindle version right now, I just found out by looking, is on sale for $2.99. It's some sort of Cyber Monday or whatever Tuesday deal, but right now I just checked, it's still $2.99 for the first book. So go get it.
Yeah, I'm gonna change this. Go get it today for.
Go get it.
$2.99.
For me, I said this when I first read it. This is like, for me, this is the next Hunger Games. Somebody just needs to pick this up. The right person needs to pick this up and read it, because this is the next Hunger Games, man. And I really want to see a movie. I can't remember if we talked about this. Have you done a dream casting?
Yeah, well, actually, I mean, we had a deal with a significant streamer and an A-list actor, and it fell through. I'm still reeling over the summer.
Man, I didn't know it had fallen through.
That's what happens. I mean, it was like full one of the big three, and like an A-list actor attached. And everyone tells you, all the authors warn you, don't get your hopes up. Of course you fucking get your hopes up. I was like, this is gonna happen. But you know what? The fact that it happened means it's got legs. So I'm still hoping. But that is a dream.
Dude, I would like, my dream is for the people who made Warrior. I can't remember the original like channel or whatever.
Warrior, the movie or the show?
No, the show.
Yeah, the show is awesome.
I would like the people who made the show to make a TV version of the combat codes. That would be my dream.
Yeah, it's actually Shannon Lee is the producer, the daughter of Bruce Lee, who wrote a book with Fonda.
With Fonda, yeah.
I'm going to go to their event because Fonda's actually, I'm doing an event with her in person next month, and then she's releasing her book the next week, so I'm going to go check that out, and I think Shannon is going to be there too.
Nice. That's a good just conveniently, I have a copy of each book here for you.
Yes.
Fonda Lee's she's your cover quote on the book.
Yes. No, she's wonderful, and she's in the Boston area now, so we've connected, and it's awesome. She's an author I really look up to quite a bit. So
yeah, Fonda's amazing, and Alex is amazing. Go support his books. And
Thank you, sir. You're amazing. Both of you are amazing.
Thanks, man. Very happy to be here with you. Justin, you can pitch people on your book your books.
Oh, dude, yeah, okay. I've got an elevator pitch for The Lost War. If you haven't read the series, so The Lost War is a Scottish epic fantasy mystery conspiracy thriller found family road trip with a D&D vibe and a twist.
Beautiful. Actually, Crystal Matar was telling me that your elevator pitches sucked for a very long time, and you had to very much work on how to properly pitch your book.
I did because I got on an elevator, literally like it wasn't
an actual elevator, an escalator.
I was sitting at a table with Bella Pagan, who runs Tor in the UK.
Yeah, and
she was like, "Hey, what's your book about?" And I was like, well, it's this and it's kind of that and I was just like, that is the worst fucking elevator pitch anybody's ever given. And so I was like, right, I got to work out what my actual elevator pitch is for this book so I can actually say, like, here are the things about it that matters. And so that's what I got. That I was like, right, everything that's in this book I'm going to actually hit you with.
Yeah, well, you got it down now, man. You missed your chance with Tor, but it's fine.
I was with Orbit by then. She was just interested to know what it was.
No pressure.
And that, being asked that question made me go, I actually need to know how to pitch this bloody book.
Exactly.
I don't know how to pitch it.
Oh, was that at Fantasy in the Court, right?
No,
we were both there.
It was at BristolCon. It was at BristolCon. That was the first time I met her at BristolCon, and she was like, "What's it about?" And I was like,
Just a beautiful word vomit.
Oh, it was just like I think I might actually have given the impression that I didn't even like the book. So it was that bad.
I have no.
You don't want to know. Whatsoever. Honestly, you don't want to know. Don't make me tell you.
Brilliant,
thanks,
man.
Bo. Bo said nice things about my books. Thanks, Bo.
Bo's being very nice right now. Oh, and this damn Bo, just with that crossover. This quote from the Combat Codes matches how Justin feels about DMCA emails. Try to control it all, and all control will be lost to you.
I like the real life application.
Beautiful, Bo. Thank you so much.
I think potentially Alex's and my between our age difference and our different attitudes, I think we're not bad sort of metaphors for Seago and Murray actually.
That's true. There's a beautiful mentor-mentee relationship going on here.
You're gonna have to put on some height and muscle, Justin.
So how tall is he?
He's like 6'5" at least.
Yeah, then Justin's fine.
That's not terrible. I'm 6'3".
Yeah, you're pretty tall.
Too far away.
You're close. You're close.
I think he's at over 350 pounds. So you got some.
I might be too, but none of it's muscle.
We can get Justin on an exercise regimen.
Yeah, we're gonna get him.
Yeah, I'm gonna need to get on some kind of workout regime.
Steroids. We'll get you some steroids.
That's going to be the most likely way it's going to happen.
Alex is just talking honestly. Yeah, just steroids, dude. Just steroids.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Oh man. And if anyone wants to check out my book, you got Mushroom Blues if you're in the mood for fungal noir police procedural. set in a secondary world full of mushroom people. I'll give a close up. If y'all like psychedelics and murder mysteries, then this book is for you. So you can go check that out and support my work. Go check out Alex's work, support him. Completed Combat Codes trilogy. Go check out Justin's work and support him as well. And I'm very appreciative for you guys just hanging out this afternoon. Or evening for you, Justin, but it's been very lovely.
It is.
No, thank you guys for coming by. It's been fun hanging out with you guys on launch day.
Definitely, dude. And just a final congrats to Alex. Yes.
I'm really happy for you, buddy. I'm really happy for you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. I appreciate that. We got to hang out soon in person. I missed what was it, Worldcon?
Yeah.
Joe Byrne was asking if we're all going to be going to Seattle for Worldcon next summer.
Man, I would kill to go to Seattle. Grunge was my like, era, man. I would kill.
I might have to do that.
It depends if I can afford it.
That's for me too. But hey, if enough people buy my book, then maybe I'll be able to afford a ticket there.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes, me too. Yeah, everybody go buy multiple copies of all my books, and then I'll be able to afford to go.
And then it's like, next week Justin's a Sunday Times bestseller. Let's go, people. Come on. Let's rock that shit.
Let's do it.
All right. Whoever's in Seattle next year, I'll see you there. You can gift me mushrooms. Since I think it's legal in Washington State. I'm not entirely sure. Don't take my word on that, but hopefully
you would have double checked.
Adrian told me to take mushrooms.
I definitely advocate for that, but never going to get picked up by a trad publisher because of my drug application. But I appreciate you all watching. Thank you for hanging out with us today as we celebrate Alex's new book. And Alex, Justin, it's been wonderful, gentlemen. Very nice to see you.
Thank you. It's been great. Thanks for having me, man.
All right. We'll see y'all later. Bye.